In those days, teachers had no monetary gains, as against today, where some teachers exploit students. They had no money, but they were dedicated to their students. It was such that there arose an adage or hype that the reward of teachers is in heaven, not on this earth. The success of their pupils was their success, and it brought great joy to them. The hard work and dedication of the Buguma teachers paid off in Jeffrey, for he did not just perform creditably, he beat all the candidates in the region hands down. It was indeed an outstanding feat, and only God could have done that for him. And this was because God had earmarked him for a special purpose in the not too distant future. He did not know it then, but many years later, he came to realize that God's favor had been upon his life right from the beginning. His brilliance did not end just in his primary school. His spectacular performance continued in his secondary school career. Government College Umuahia had a system in which brilliant students were selected and put in a special class and groomed to sit for the Cambridge examination, the equivalent of the modern West African School Certificate, WAEC, or Senior Secondary School Certificate, SSCE, in 4 years instead of the usual 5 years. Jeffrey and Lionel Benibo, now a surgeon, both from Buguma, were among those chosen in their set. They passed their papers with excellent results. Jeffrey was not only good in academics, he was also good in sports, especially football and athletics. Government College Umuahia was run by British colonial masters, some of them who were soldiers. They formed the cadet unit through which they gave military training to the boys, which included shooting, compass and map reading, and trekking through forests. It was in the cadet unit that Jeffrey developed interest in shooting and became a crack shot. Till date, shooting is still a great hobby with him. Those were days when every Nigerian had equal rights and equal opportunities in this country. So you found children of great men like the late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owelo of Onitsha, and the first president of Nigeria, and other leaders of the country going to the same school with the children of the poor. So Jeffrey found himself in the same class with Nwachukwu Azikiwe, son of Dr. Azikiwe, and they became great pals despite the wide gap in their social class. They were such close friends that sometimes during the holidays, Nwachukwu would come and visit him in his humble abode in Port Harcourt. There was no class distinction or cultural differences practiced by any of them. Everybody was an Umuahian, and was an Umuahian, always an Umuahian. That love and fraternity which the great teachers of those days inculcated in them is still in them today. Cadet training was quite rigorous for the young boys. It was hard training but fun. Some holidays, while other students went home to their parents, the cadets would be taken to the hills and forests of Nsukka, now in Enugu State, Nigeria, for camping and training. As part of the training, the cadets would be taken to forests where each of them would be given a compass and a map and left on their own with instructions to find their way back to camp. Every one of them would then trace his way back to camp with the aid of the map and compass. This training came in handy many years later when Jeffrey, as a preacher, struck out through forests, rivers, and seas to reach the inaccessible islands and villages of Rivers State and Bayelsa State with the aid of maps preaching the gospel. Recalling those camping days, Jeffrey said that they would all be left to get lost in the forest, ostensibly without any deference for any cadet, including Nwachukwu Azikiwe. But unknown to Nwachukwu, a British soldier would be specially assigned to track every step of his, as he, like the other cadets, traced their way through the forest. Well, who says all animals are equal? Of course, some are more equal than others. Their British masters used to select the best of the cadets to send to the armed forces at the end of their secondary school career. Jeffrey was very good at shooting, so in his final year, he was among those chosen to go to Sandhurst, United Kingdom, for military training, immediately after their school SAT examinations. He really loved the armed forces, so he was very excited and elated. He loved adventure, and so his ambition was to fly the fastest jets that were in the world. He therefore opted for the Air Force so that he would achieve that ambition. But that was not to be. He went home and told his beloved mother, Nenta, that there was an offer for him to join the armed forces and go for training abroad. She paused for a while and then asked him, "At the end of your training, what will you be?" "I'll be a soldier," he answered. She then said, "My son, you are my last born. And soldier's money is hard money. If you go and become a soldier and bring that money to me, I will not eat. That is, take it." Her reaction was what killed his ambition to be a soldier. He loved his mother so much that he could not bear her rejecting any gift or money from him. He therefore changed his mind and went to do his higher school certificate course at Government Secondary School, Numbere. That was how God scuttled his plan to join the armed forces, by using his mother, for he had other plans for Jeffrey. He had always been active as a young lad, and so was very much involved in INICU, the Association of River State Students. INICU was the acronym for Ijo, Numbere, Ibani, Kalabari, Ikontoro, Okrika students, and served as a pressure group to agitate for the creation of river states even before the Nigerian independence. Jeffrey was so active that he was made the secretary of the group in 1961 when he was only in class 3, even though it was a post reserved for senior students. He served creditably during his tenure of office and carefully kept their records so much that they are still in good conditions today. Many years later, one of his friends commented that he was not surprised at the dynamism with which Jeffrey spread the gospel. He claimed to have noticed that trait in him far back in their INICU days. Life after college. After his A-levels, there was no money for him to go to the university. So he went to live with yet another stepbrother, Mr. Numbere, at Ebutameta, Lagos. Through the help of a family friend, he got a job as a clerk in the accounts department of the photographic division of Kingsway Chemist, Lagos. Even in this, God's hand was there, for there he acquired some knowledge of accounting. This knowledge came in handy in the early years of the Ministry of Great Evangelism, as he lacked qualified personnel and had to teach his workers some accounting skills so that they could keep the meager accounts of the ministry properly. In Ebutameta, he had a strange experience. One day when he was strolling down the street where he lived, that day, he came upon a strange scene. Down the road, he saw an old man using a razor blade to peel a long bamboo stick. He wondered why the old man should be suffering himself unnecessarily. It would have been much easier to use a knife, he thought. Like Moses with the burning bush, he went closer to see this strange thing and probably proffered his advice to the man that using a knife would be far easier. As he approached the man, the old man turned him and started talking to him. He told Jeffrey that these hard times that he was passing through would not be a permanent feature with him. He said God's special favor was upon him, and a day will come when God will begin to bless him immensely. It was like the man peeling the bamboo the hard way using a razor blade was a practical illustration to Jeffrey of his suffering at that time, and more that will come in the not too distant future. It was like he was demonstrating that though Jeffrey was going through much suffering and will yet pass through much more for the gospel's sake, it will not be forever. The future will be brighter, just as the old man eventually succeeded in getting the bamboo peeled. That was the meaning of the incident, but he did not know it at that time. After he finished speaking, the old man continued with his peeling, while Jeffrey continued with his work. Suddenly, he had an instinct to turn back and take another look at the strange old man. When he looked back, behold, the man and his bamboo stick had disappeared. Bewildered, he ran back to the spot. There was no trace of him, the bamboo stick, the shavings, or the razor blade. Then he made a search for the man in the vicinity. He inquired from those around whether anybody knew the direction the man went to, but nobody had seen any old man peeling bamboo stick or moving down the street. The man had actually vanished into thin air, bamboo stick, razor blade, and all. Shivers ran down his spine, for he had never experienced anything like this before. He quickly ran back to the house. At this time, his elder brother was far away in Canada for further studies, so he went and confided in his sister-in-law. She told him that that was no ordinary man, but an angel. He never forgot that experience. In 1967, one Mr. Abednego January, a native of Buguma, but a non-relative of Jeffrey's, came to learn that Jeffrey was unable to get into the university because there was no money for his training. He felt that such a brain would not be wasted and encouraged him to seek admission into any university of his choice and promised to sponsor him financially. It was again the finger of God in Jeffrey's life, for Mr. January was not a wealthy man. That was how Jeffrey went and applied to the University of Ife and was admitted to study geology in 1967. The University of Ife was then in its Ibadan campus, which today serves as the Ibadan Polytechnic. Mr. January kept his promise and paid Jeffrey's first school fees, after which he was given a scholarship award by the Rivers State government.